Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon, General.
Good afternoon, Honorable Kanyile.
I'll go straight to your statement. In paragraph 26, you indicate, if I'm looking at your statement, you say that subsequently, still in January, and after your discussion, January 2025, after your discussion with Lieutenant General Kuman whilst in his office, Lieutenant General Sbiya also inquired whether you had engaged Lieutenant General Kumalo regarding the transfer of the PKTT case dockets to your office. Then, looking at that inquiry about Lieutenant General Sbiya, according to you, what did you read in that inquiry? What was he trying to say with that inquiry? Yeah, with Lieutenant General Kumalo, and he's present also. Can you say?
Thank you very much, Honorable Kanyile.
So can you say?
So Kanyile, I apologize, Honorable Member. Honorable Kanyile, when General Sibia spoke to me, I took it that he assumed that General Kumalo spoke to me, because at the time he said this, he had not spoken to me. So this was the first time that he was raising the matter. So what went in my mind was that maybe he was following if I understood what General Kumalo was saying, and if I am going to comply with that request to General Kumalo. Because remember, the initial instruction was General Kumalo must give me the dockets, but not to me, from General Kumalo to myself.
Okay, but reading further, your statement, in the next paragraph, you are saying that as much as yourself with Lieutenant General Kumalo, you have talked about this informally, but you didn't want to indicate to Lieutenant General Sbiya that you have talked. Why? Why didn't you say, no, we've just talked casually about this? Why didn't you want to, as if there's something you wanted to say that in this one, I don't want this one to know. To me, it seems it's like that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sokanyile. If maybe we read it again, actually, I did not hide that I spoke to General Sibia. And I did respond to him that General Kumalo spoke to me informally. Informally means that there was no official attachment to the discussion, because he had a letter and I didn't. And I think for that reason, I then asked that if he wants me to act as General Kumalo received a letter, he must do the same to me. Thank you, Honorable.
Okay. Then in paragraph 29, you indicate that according to Deputy National Commissioner's letter sent to you, that letter is annexure HKS4, the directive by the minister was based on an assessment which concluded that PKTT no longer made significant contribution to the broader policing effort. Are you aware of any assessment that have been undertaken on the work of the PKTT that is maybe looking at their performance, that it can be even pinned down to say that there was an assessment.
Honorable Zokanyile, and I think I did testify to this earlier, that there was no assessment that was made available. There was just a mere mention of the assessment. And I think in my response, I even said that the IMC would have then had to look at that assessment. So as far as I know, there was no assessment conducted in this regard. And if there was, we never received, I personally never saw the report. Thank you.
If an assessment maybe has been done, would you say that assessment was done by the minister or by the NC?
An assessment is in the purview of the operational heads. So for example, as we provide progress to either the ministers or the national commissioner, that is an assessment of, for example, if you are intervening on political killings, or let's say contract killings. In the assessment, we are saying that the threat has been stabilized, or the threat requires us to continue with our efforts. So it is not the minister who then provides an assessment. It is actually the operational heads, and probably led by the national commissioner, who then provides the assessment to the minister, to the ministers, who then deliberate, and based on that presentation, they then take a decision whether the threat has been stabilized or we can proceed with the interventions.
If the minister has been given a report, a particular report by particular general to say that they are no longer needed, this PKTT, then wouldn't that be an assessment that the minister can talk about?
I do agree with you. It could be an assessment, but still it would require discussion with all the relevant role players. Thank you, Honorable.
Because to me, if I'm a minister, you come here as head of particular areas, you give me a report assessing the situation that on that corner, it is like this, then I will have a conclusion or a recommendation to say, if we are saying like this, don't you think there was someone who have given the minister a briefing about the performance of the PKTT?
Honorable, if I may say, let's say that happens and the minister is given a briefing. The minister still has an obligation to call all the operational heads to say, I have this assessment in my possession, and this is what it indicates. Can we either engage the author to clarify to us how did they get probably to the conclusions, or maybe can we engage and get ideas from the floor on how do we proceed with the matter? I don't think there's anything wrong with an assessment, but I think how you take it forward, it cannot just be General Sintumule doing it. I will have to call my component heads for us to look at it and see how we can take it forward. The most significant part that is said in the statement is that it is no longer making a significant contribution to the broader policing efforts, because that talks now to organizational direction moving forward, meaning that you don't prioritize this matter anymore. So definitely a discussion is required for something as monumental as the statement. Thank you, Honorable.
Okay, in paragraph 32, you refer to the National Commissioner's proposal of a winding down disbandment plan for the PKTT. And further in paragraph 33, you indicate that it was not feasible to implement the handover process within 7 days as instructed by the DNC. Were you agreeing with the winding down approach?
I was agreeing with the winding down approach because it made operational sense.
Why did you think it was not feasible to implement the handover process within 7 days then?
I explained earlier, Honorable Sokanyile, that to disband or to decommission, you have to take into account other processes. There are 5 competencies involved in any task team that we have. And that's why we would call it a one-stop shop. So if you disband, as you actually do your interventions, you generate dockets, that is, which will lead to investigations. So by the time you decide to disband, you need to assess how far are those investigations. If, for example, some of them are ongoing, definitely you cannot say you're going to disband. You will then have to give the investigators more time to investigate, place the dockets on the court roll, and upon conclusion, then you can assess. I think like proposed here to say, once the investigator is done with an investigation, then he can go back to his place of origin or station of origin. So for that reason, it is not possible to just disband a structure like that.
In paragraph 39, you are saying that during the deliberations regarding the implementation plan on the disestablishment of the PKTT, you indicate that the DNC was not pleased with the approach of keeping the court going dockets with the PKTT, arguing that would imply the team was not disbanded. Further, that the National Commissioner and Lieutenant General Musikidi were not in support of the DNC's approach, but rather supported the retention of the court-going dockets with the PKTT, as the handing over of those dockets would adversely impact upon the court processes. Were you not concerned about the displeasure of the DNC on the implementation plan?
Thank you, Honorable Sokanyile. I'm not sure if I said this to this meeting earlier, that in this process, we are guided by what is operationally sound and correct. It's not about the sentiments of the individuals. It's about how do we serve this process moving forward. So I wasn't as much concerned, because at the end of the day, as an investigator, he would know that it is not an easy thing to do, to take a court going to docket, which means already it's on the court roll, to give it to someone else, because it actually affects other processes, including your chain of custody. Thank you, Honorable.
Okay, in paragraph 42, you indicate that the DNC insinuated that, if I can quote you, I was now like Lieutenant General Kumalo, and I was you were dragging your feet in implementing the minister's instruction. What was your view about this comment that he made, that you are now like Lieutenant General Kumalo?
For me, it was a matter of forced compliance, to say that if you don't comply, it means that now they will, maybe the minister himself and generals and chief of staff will then conclude that I'm also anti-implementing the instruction. That was my reading of it.
Does it mean that even Lieutenant General Kumalo was anti? Because here, the DNC says you are like Lieutenant General Kumalo. Then you are saying that it would mean that you were anti. You didn't want to, in other words, you didn't want to implement the minister's directive. So it means that Lieutenant General Kumalo was seen as a person who didn't want to implement that directive.
It was the DNC's assessment, and that's why he was insinuating that way.
So if it is the DNC who had that
Yes,
about yourself and Lieutenant General Kuma,
yes.
meaning that you are in one cabal.
Honorable Sokanyile, I want to submit to this House that this process has actually pinned the police against each other, and I think we are seen to be either for.
Having factions.
And yes, and as I said that, for me, the truth and the process should prevail. It is not, and I did say, it's not about General Mkwanaz, it's not about General Sibia. It's about what is the correct procedure for us to go through things. And unfortunately, I think as you respond, then immediately you are attached to a person. From where I sit, I think I serve the organization.
In paragraph 46, you indicate that after the meeting of the 27th March, 2025, you were upset and you remember asking the National Commissioner why the dockets should come to you. The National Commissioner responded that it was because you are the head of detectives. Is it your view that the dockets were not supposed to come to your office? I understand that you said the dockets, they were supposed to be taken to subs. You have said that, but now you are discussing this. Who should have taken those dockets to subs? Because I see this as someone who must be given the dockets, then you take them to subs. Why were you upset about that?
And I wish to state, Honorable Sokanyile, that I think my response was emoted in the spirit of that moment. And the National Commissioner was correct to say that the dockets should actually be taken by the head of detectives, because it's not about Kosi as a person of General Sintumule, it is about a process. But I think in that spirit of the moment, you actually wished you didn't have to find yourself in this particular position.
Then what happened to the docket?
The dockets eventually, I think, were handed over to me, and I think eventually back to KwaZulu-Natal. So they are now in KwaZulu-Natal.
You just put them in the safe and close them. Thank you, Chair.
No, they are being investigated. Thank you very much, Honorable Sokanyile.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.